Welcome to Studies with Stearman. Join us as we look deeper into the Bible. Strengthen your faith with us, even as we see the day approaching. And now, here's Gary.
I have taught about Christmas for years and years and years, and I've been through a lot of phases and a lot of, let's put it this way, I have answered a lot of objections. There are some people who say we shouldn't even celebrate Christmas because Christ wasn't born on the 25th of December, and in fact, they say that Christmas recalls the Roman festival of Saturnalia, the worship of the god Saturn, at which time gifts were given and songs were sung and food and beverage was out in profusion, and everybody decorated their homes by bringing in trees and decorating. And by the way, the Roman colors for Saturnalia were red and green. And so people say, well, we shouldn't worship and remember Christmas because it's a pagan holiday. But in fact, and in spite of everything that Christmas tends to be on the negative side, the season itself helps us to recall the calendar of events that brought Jesus into the world. And last week we spent our entire period looking at the words of Haggai and the festival that was born as he wrote. Haggai chapter 2, verse 18, consider now from this day and upward, now from the 24th day of the 9th month, even to the day that the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid, consider it. Now Haggai wrote this in 520 BC, which is a long time before 164 BC, when the festival of Hanukkah was actually commemorated for the first time. In other words, Haggai's prophecy came long, long before Hanukkah was established as the festival of lights. And so from the time of the prophet Haggai until the time of the Maccabees, the 24th of Kislev was remembered as a prophecy, but it was not remembered as a holiday. And it's called lights. The Jews refer to it as increasing the light because it does increase the light over an 8-day period. First night you light one light, and by the 8th night you've lit 8 lights. And the whole idea of increasing the light is the idea of bringing light into the world. And the ultimate Christmas tree is found at the end of the book of Revelation. Talk about increasing the light. The New Jerusalem is a city of lights of every color. If you can imagine the light of God shining through 12 different kinds of precious stones and projecting all those colors, that's got to be the ultimate Christmas tree. But the whole idea of Jesus bringing light into the world began on the 24th of Kislev. And it began with the virgin birth. And on that note, what I want to do today is something that we don't do very often. I wanted to look at the genealogies of the Lord. We were talking about the birth of Christ, and we spent a whole hour talking about Christ's conception and his birth. Now I'd like to look at the genealogies. So turn, if you will, to Matthew chapter 1. And usually when we think of genealogies, the first word that pops into the head is boring. Not that. You know, you give somebody the New Testament. Here, have you ever read the New Testament? No. Well, just read this. And so they open it up to Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac, Isaac begat Jacob, Jacob begat Judah, Judah, Amen. Well, I don't think I want to read this. Boring. Except, if you recall, something interesting about the prophecy of Haggai when he prophesied about the building of the temple. He also prophesied about, and we looked at this in depth last week, he prophesied about the virgin birth. And the two prophets, Haggai and Zechariah, that lie next to each other in the Bible, were both written in 520 BC, and they both have to do with different aspects of temple building. Haggai has to do with the spiritual aspect of temple building and the laying of the foundation of the temple on the 24th of Kislev. And it has everything to do, as we saw last week, with the conception of Christ. I believe that Christ was conceived on the 24th of Kislev. 9 months later, on Tishri 1, Rosh Hashanah, he was born. And Rosh Hashanah is, of course, the festival in the Jewish calendar that celebrates birth in every way you can imagine. It's called the birthday of the world. And the other thing about Haggai that we saw last week was the fact that Haggai brings together the two lines, the two Davidic lines of royalty, the regal line and the legal line, the line of the house of David and the line of primogeniture come together in Haggai. David through Solomon, through Zerubbabel, through Joseph is one line. David through Nathan, through Zerubbabel, through Mary is another line. And today I want to look very carefully at what that means. The last thing we read last week was Haggai 2:23. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, will I take thee, O Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel, saith the Lord, and will make thee as a signet, for I have chosen thee, saith the Lord of hosts. Zerubbabel is spoken of as the signet ring of the Lord. That is, the signet is the legal and regal seal that is affixed to any document. If a document, say coming out of the line of the tribe of Judah, out of the house of David, is to be considered authentic, it has to be sealed in a particular way. And God, through Haggai, says to Zerubbabel, I'm going to make you my signet ring. And Zerubbabel is the only name in the two genealogies of Jesus that occurs at a particular time, at a particular place in both lines. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, I will take thee, O Zerubbabel, my servant. The word Zerubbabel in Hebrew means born in Babylon. Zerubbabel means born in Babylon. And in fact, Zerubbabel of the royal line of David through Nathan and Solomon was born in the Babylonian captivity, but he came back, and in 520 BC, he was made the governor of Judah, and he oversaw the rebuilding of the second temple. So not only does Zerubbabel stand in both lineages of Joseph and Mary, but he's given a very, very special assignment to rebuild the temple. So he's got like three regal connections. And God says, you're going to be my signet ring. And having said that, then, let's go to Matthew chapter 1 and read the royal lineage through David. Matthew chapter 1. The genealogy is the regal or royal genealogy. The genealogy in Luke is not regal, it is legal. It's called the geniture or the primogeniture of Jesus. We'll talk about that in a minute. Matthew 1:1. The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, son of David, son of Abraham. That's the way it starts. Now notice here that David is mentioned first. He's mentioned out of line. He's mentioned before Abraham in this particular sentence. indicating that the royal line came out of Abraham. And in Genesis 22:18, it is written, "In thy seed, that is the seed of Abraham, shall all nations of the earth be blessed." And in Galatians 3:16, Paul writes, "Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not, and to seeds as many, but as of one, to thy seed, which is Christ." And so basically, you look at the genealogy of Abraham that comes down to Christ, and you have God's sanction at every stage of a series of events that happen over a long period of time, a couple of thousand years, and they are registered as a series of births. Now, the fascinating thing about this genealogy is that if you wanted to stop and study the genealogy that's given in Matthew 1, if you wanted to study it in depth, that is, go back and look at each of the characters that appears in the genealogy, it would take you months. So we're going to try to do it here in less than months. We're going to try to do it in a few minutes. Book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham, generation 1, begat Isaac, 2. And Isaac begat Jacob, 3. Jacob begat Judas and his brethren, 4. Matthew 1:3. And Judas begat Phares, 5. And Zara of Tamar. And Phares begat Ezram, 6. And Ezram begat Aram, 7. Now let me stop here at the end of Matthew 1:3 and say that you have Tamar in verse 3. And there's a fascinating thing about the genealogy of Jesus that leads down to the birth of Christ, and therefore Christmas, which is what we're talking about. And that is, Tamar is a Gentile woman. There are 4 Gentile women in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. That's fascinating. Why would that be? Tamar. You read about her in Genesis 38. Have you ever read about Tamar? Have you ever read Genesis 38? Joseph's family sins with the Canaanites. Tamar was a Canaanite woman. And I'm not going to read all of Genesis 38. I'm looking at it right now and I'm saying, wow, man, is that really in the Bible? Because there are just a series of really bad relationships between really bad people. And essentially, Joseph's family is sinning with the Canaanites, and Tamar was one of the elements of sin. And yet, she is found in the genealogy of the Lord Jesus Christ. Matthew 1:4, and Aram begot Aminadab. That's the 8th generation. Aminadab begot Naason, that's the 9th, and Naason begot Salmon, that's the 10th. Matthew 1:5, Salmon begot Boaz, he's number 11 in this genealogy, of Rahab. And Boaz begot Obed of Ruth, and Obed begot Jesse. Now, we have here Rahab in Matthew 1:5 and Ruth, 2 more Gentile women in the lineage of Christ. Fascinating to me that these, what are these women? These are 4 women who illustrate faith under the most perverse and troubled situations. Tamar, Canaanite woman, basically the story would have her dying an untimely and an indecent death, and through a series of events she became part of the lineage of the house of David. Rahab, Rahab? Wow, what can I say? By faith, the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace. She was a woman of the streets in Jericho, but she acted in faith. Another example of a Gentile acting through faith and being brought into the line of Christ. Not unlike the whole salvation idea that carries us through the New Testament. Here it starts in the genealogies. And of course, Ruth was a woman of Moab who was down and out and by rights had no claim to anything, and yet she was written into the genealogy of Jesus. Obed begot Jesse, who's the 13th generation. Matthew 1:6, Jesse begot David the king. So Ruth came along not too far before David himself. And David the king begot Solomon. Now Solomon begins a new segment of the generation of Jesus Christ, the royal lineage through David. Because as we discover at the end of this genealogy, it's divided into three groups of 14. And in Matthew 1:5, you have, and Solomon begot Boaz, he's number 11. Boaz begot Obed of Ruth, and Obed begot Jesse, he's 13. And Jesse begot David, he's number 14, and he is the king. Well, if you turn over here to the end of the genealogy in the 17th verse of Matthew 1, it says, so all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. From David until the carrying away to Babylon are 14 generations. And from the carrying away of Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. They are generations that are divided into 14s because they are divided into three different developmental cycles of the house of David. So Solomon begins the second 14. He's the 15th generation. Matthew 1:6, Jesse begot David the king. David the king begot Solomon, the generation 15 of her that had been the wife of Uriah. Who was her that had been the wife of Uriah? She's not mentioned by name here. Why is she not mentioned by name? Because of the sin of David. And you know the whole story of David and Bathsheba, R-rated. And Bathsheba's not even mentioned. She's mentioned as her that had been the wife of Uriah. That's the whole story of David and Bathsheba, and David sending Uriah out to the front of battle so that he would be wiped out, and it would clear the way for David to marry her, which he did. Wow, what a story. You know, if she could appear in the genealogy of Christ, anybody could appear in the genealogy of Christ. That means me and you. Because this is genealogy of grace, not of legalities. This is the royal lineage of Christ, and it has in it almost a hall of shame when it comes to the characters that find their way into this genealogy. Matthew 1:6, Jesse begat David, number 14, the king. David begat Solomon, number 15, that had been the wife of her that had been the wife of Uriah. So she's the fourth Gentile woman who appears in this genealogy. Matthew 1:7, Solomon begot Rehoboam. He's the 16th. Rehoboam got Abijah, the 17th. Abijah begot Asa. He's the 18th. And Asa begot Jehoshaphat. He's the 19th. Jehoshaphat begot Joram, the 20th. Joram begot Ozias, 21st. Matthew 1:9 says Ozias begot Jotham. He's the 22nd generation. Jotham begot Ahaz. He's the 23rd. And Ahaz begot Ezekias. He's the 24th. Matthew 1:10. And Ezekias begot Manasseh. By the way, does anybody know about Manasseh, King Manasseh? He's the nastiest guy in the Old Testament. He is bad. As Avi Lipkin would say, bad. He's not just bad, he's bad. And here he is in the genealogy of Christ. This is grace in action. This is amazing, or amazing grace, I guess. Manasseh begat Ammon. He's the 26th in the line. Ammon begot Josias. He's the 27th. And Josias begot Jeconiah. He's number 28. And his brethren about the time they were carried away to Babylon. So Jeconiah is the second. He ends the second group of 14. He's 28th in the line. And have you ever heard about Jeconiah? If you have a Hebrew word that has J-E on the front of it, like Jehoram or Jeconiah or Jesse or whatever, the J-E is an abbreviation for the Lord. And so it's a way of attaching the Yahweh's name to the front of your name. And here we have Jeconiah, the 28th in the line, and his brethren, about the time they were carried away to Babylon. Have you ever heard about the curse that God put on Jeconiah? It's in Jeremiah 22. And Jeremiah writes this curse about Jeconiah and takes the J-E off the front of his name, and it's reduced just to Coniah, and it's called the curse of Coniah because he has God's name removed from the front of his name. As I live, saith the Lord, though Coniah the son of Jehoiakim king of Judah were the signet upon my right hand. You see this? You remember the word signet from Haggai? Well, here we have the same word. And Jeconiah was, in fact, the signet. But he got jerked out of the line, the royal line. As I live, saith the Lord, though Coniah the son of Jehoiakim king of Judah were the signet upon my right hand, yet would I pluck thee thence. And I will give thee to the hand of them that seek thy life, into the hand of them whose face thou fearest, even unto the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, in the land of the Chaldeans. He says, Jeconiah, I'm stripping you of your rank. You're just going to be called Coniah from now on, and you're going to go off into Babylonian captivity, and your family's going to be killed there. And I will cast thee out, and thy mother that bare thee into another country where ye were not born, and there you shall die. But to the land whereunto they desire to return, thither shall they not return. In other words, your family's not going to come back to Israel. Is this man Coniah a despised, broken idol? Is he a vessel wherein there is no pleasure? Wherefore are they cast out, he and his seed, and cast into a land which they know not? O earth, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Now that's the line of the house of David. It terminates. And what this says is that the curse of Coniah will cut the line from David. There can be no ruler. There can be no ruler after Coniah. There won't be anybody ruling in the house of David anymore. Matthew 1:12. And after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begot Saltiel, and Saltiel begot Zerubbabel. Ooh. Zerubbabel becomes the new signet. Remember back in Haggai where he said, I'm going to make you my signet ring. Well, right here it says, after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begot Saltiel, and Saltiel begot Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel means born in Babylon. And in this man was restored the line of David by grace, as we read in Haggai. That's the importance of the prophet Haggai. By grace, the Davidic line was restored after it had been cut off. And so you have here the message of grace in a very loud and clear terms. Matthew 1:13, and Zerubbabel begot Abiud, that's generation number 31. Abiud begot Eliakim, that's generation 32. Eliakim begot Azor, that's generation 33. And Azor begot Zadok, generation 34. Zadok begot Achim, that's generation 35. Achim begot Eliud, generation 36. Matthew 1:15 says, and Eliud begot Eleazar, generation 37. Eleazar begot Matan, that's generation 38. Matan begot Jacob, 39. And Jacob begot Joseph, number 40. The husband of Mary, number 41, of whom was born Jesus, number 42. So here you have 3 14s in the line of the house of David, coming down to Christ, from David through Christ. 3 14s. And the first 14, the second 14, and the third 14, each are worthy of an hour, which we don't have. That'll be a good study to do someday. But here's the fascinating thing. Look again at Matthew 1:16. This is after the restoration of the Davidic line through Zerubbabel, who became the new signet after the curse of Coniah. Had it not been for the grace of God, there could be no Lord Jesus Christ. Jacob begot Joseph, number 40, the husband of Mary. A woman is in position number 41 in the genealogy. The genealogy all the way through is men and their wives. But here, the 41st member of the genealogy begets Jesus. So basically what this is saying is that God the Father is generation number 13. Mary's name is in his place because she became pregnant supernaturally. So you have Jacob begat Joseph as the 40, husband of Mary, 41, of whom was born Jesus, 42, who is called Christ. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. From David until the carrying away to Babylon are 14 generations. And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. And the very next sentence is, now, the birth of Christ was on this wise. The birth of Christ happened as follows. And this takes us right up to where we started last week with the birth of Christ. This is the royal generation, the royal genealogy of Christ. And what's the most fascinating thing about the genealogy of Christ? It has people in it that don't by human reckoning, really don't have any right to be there at all. It has streetwalkers, it has criminals, it has gonuffs, it has encroachers, it has turncoats. I mean, it's got every kind of bad person you can think of, and Jeconiah is the worst of all. He totally overthrew the trust of the Davidic line by the way he behaved himself in office. And yet still, God, by grace, restored the line. It would have been impossible for, and this is very important, because Jeconiah was set aside and in a ceremonial way replaced by Zerubbabel. It would have been impossible for there to be a claimant to the throne of David had not Jesus been born of a virgin, who is number 41 in this line of 42. The virgin birth of Christ makes this genealogy possible. She breaks the curse, in effect. Because, and you can go back and check it, though Zerubbabel was appointed by God as the temple builder and as the signet, it would have been impossible for him to have completed the genealogy unless God had made one more adjustment, and that adjustment was the virgin birth of Christ through Mary, generation number 41. Now that's the royal lineage of Christ. And the royal lineage of Christ starts with Abraham. Now, to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. That's the importance of that. To Abraham and his seed were the promises made. That is the messianic line. But now, let's talk about the legal line. There are really two lineages. And the legal line is covered by Luke. So let's go over to Luke. Luke 3:23. And look at the legal line. Now this is called the line of primogeniture. And that means if you go to, if your great uncle Bill, who's worth $85 million, dies over here, and there's a reading of his will, and you get a letter through the mail saying you need to attend the reading of the will on such and such a date, you do not walk, you run over to the legal office where they're reading the will to see what you got out of it. Because it might just be that by some connection, relationship, you will get something. That's called primogeniture. This is Jesus' blood title to the throne of David. And it's not 42 generations long. It's actually 72 generations long. And it doesn't read in the way that most genealogies read. It reads backwards. Luke 3:23, and Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, the son of Heli. As was supposed. Notice this, it was assumed that he was the son of Joseph. And Jesus, generation number 72, himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, generation 71, the son of Heli, generation 70, which was the son of Matat, generation 69, the son of Levi, 68, son of Melchi, 67, son of Diana, 66, son of Joseph, 65, which is the son of Matthias, 64, son of Amos, 63, which is the son of Nahum, 62, the son of Esli, 61, which is the son of Nageh, 60, which is the son of Ma'at, 59, which is the son of Mattatias, 58, the son of Semei, 57, the son of Joseph, 56, son of Judah. We're getting back to some familiar names here. Which was the son of Joanna, the son of Risa, which was the son of, there he is again, Zerubbabel, number 52. So Zerubbabel appears right in the middle of the line of Joseph and right in the middle of the line of Mary. Zerubbabel is right in the middle of the royal line and he's right in the middle of the legal line. And God calls him the signet ring. And he's called that because he ties the two houses together. David through Solomon, David through Nathan. Both genealogies very carefully come down to the birth of Christ. And it had to be that way in order for everything to be balanced and in order. As chaotic as this looks, and as chaotic as the people are who are married and who give birth to children, and you read the stories of them in the Old Testament, and wow, what a bunch of ne'er-do-wells and renegades, a lot of them. Now there are some, that get it together. But there are really a lot of bad dudes in this genealogy. And what we have here is just a great illustration of the grace of God. Zerubbabel here is shown as the son of Salatiel, father of Risa. So that's the line through Nathan. Which is the son of Melchi, the son of Adi, 48, which is the son of Kosam, 47, the son of Elmodam, which is 46, son of Ert, 45, son of Jose, 44, son of Eleazar, 43, son of Jorim, which was the son of Matat, 42, son of Levi, 41, son of Simeon, which was son of Judah, son of Joseph, son of Jonan, 38, son of Eliakim, 37, son of Meliah, 36, son of Menon, 35, son of Matata, which is 34, the son of Nathan, 33, which is the son of David. And there you see, it's David through Nathan is the legal line. And you say, well, why are we even bothering to look at this? Well, it's Christmas, the birth of Christ. It's the birth of Christ. The Bible goes out of its way to prove that his birth was legal, it was genuine, it was royal, it met every conceivable possible legal challenge. So David here is generation 32. And continuing in Luke 3:32, which was the son of Jesse, 31, Obed, 30, Boaz, 29, Solomon, 28, was the son of Naason, 27, Aminadab, 26, son of Aram, 25, which is the son of Esrom, 24, the son of Phares, 23, which is the son of Judah, 22. He is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Jesus is called the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Well, here's Judah in the genealogy, which is the son of Jacob, which is son of 21, Isaac, 20, son of Abraham, 19, son of Terah, son of which is 18, son of Nahor, 17, son of Saruch, 16, son of Ragal. By the way, some of these names sound weird compared with their Old Testament equivalents. It's because these are transliterated out of the Greek instead of the Hebrew. Which was the son of Phalek, which is 14, son of Heber, 13, son of Salah, 12, the son of Kenan, 11, son of Arphaxad, 10, son of Shem, 9, which was the son of Noah, 8. Noah was the 8th. As you go back toward the beginning, Noah was the 8th, and his household was called the household of the 8. The children of the 8th man, son of Lamech, 7, generation 7, Luke 3:37, which was the son of Methuselah, generation 6, which was the son of Enoch, which was the son of Jared, which is the son of Mahalalel, generation 5, which is the son of Canaan, generation 4, which is the son of Enos, generation 3, which is the son of Seth, generation 2, which is the son of Adam, generation 1, which is the son of God. There it is. And to me, genealogies are not boring. They have enormous amounts of information in them. Now let's turn to Luke, verse 21. Now when all the people were baptized, it came to pass that Jesus also, being baptized and praying, the heaven was opened, a Holy Ghost descended in bodily shape like a dove upon him, and a voice came from heaven which said, "Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And that is the introduction to the genealogy, to the legal genealogy that we just read, the genealogy of primogeniture. But if you turn back to chapter 2 in Luke, Luke sort of goes a little bit backwards compared with Matthew. You open Matthew chapter 1, you've got the genealogy, the royal genealogy that leads to the birth of Christ. In Luke, you have it a little bit backwards. You have Christ being born. You have the testimony of the shepherds and Simeon and Anna and the ministry of John the Baptist, and then comes the genealogy. Chapter 2 of Luke, and it came to pass in those days there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed, and this taxing was made when Quirinius was governor of Syria, and all went to be taxed, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was the house and lineage of David. We have talked about the fact that if you go back and check very, very carefully, you will find that Quirinius was governor of Syria for the second time. He's actually governor of Syria for in two different periods of time. Once back around 10 BC, and then he went to other duties, and then he came back and he was governor of Syria for a second time, beginning in 3 BC. And that's about when this happens. When Quirinius is the governor of Syria, then all went to be taxed, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth unto Judea, the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, the house of bread, because he was of the house and lineage of David. He was of the house and lineage of David. This is his primogeniture. Who knew about this? Who would have known that Joseph was of the house and lineage? Who would even want to know? Who cares? I mean, do you really care 3 or 4 generations back of your own people? I mean, it's interesting sometimes to find out, but you really don't. It's not that big a deal. And maybe some of them you don't even want to claim, right? But who cares when Quirinius is governor of Syria that you go to the house of David? And why do you go to the house of David? Because everybody knows that your lineage comes out of that house, and the place you go to register in the Roman official registry. This is not a Jewish registry. This registration was done by the Roman government for one reason only, and that is to keep track of possible claimants to an alien throne. The only thrones recognized in the days of the birth of Jesus were the household of the Seleucids of Syria, the household of Herod of Israel, and the household of the family of Germanicus in Rome. There were three bloodlines that were allowed to be considered royalty. Then there's that fourth bloodline, House of David. Everybody knew. It had been a long time, and nobody talked about it very much, but everybody knew that there was this Old Testament thing. In the Tanakh, there was this thing about a Messiah coming, and when he came, he would come out of the house of David. Now, if the one thing you don't want, if you are a Seleucid of Syria, or if you are a Herodian, or if you are the house of Germanicus in Rome, is a pretender to any throne anywhere. You don't want a pretender. And this registration, among other things, of course it was used for taxation, but among other things, it was used to keep track of the house of David, a pretender to the throne. You would be watched very carefully. And by the way, if you read history, and you go back and read first century history, it's astounding how assiduous the Romans were in keeping track of possible legal houses that might erupt and claim a regal constituency based upon their genealogy. So Joseph went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was the house and lineage of David, to be taxed, it says. Actually, it is to be registered with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Everybody knows this story. Everybody knows this story about this little baby that was born at the Tower of the Flock, Migdal Eder, a place just north of Bethlehem. The birth was in a little place very close by where the temple shepherds raised and inspected sheep that were to be shipped up to Jerusalem for sacrifice in the Holy Temple. And we've all read about shepherds watching over their flocks by night. Jesus' birth would have been in the fall, early September. Lambs were being born at that time, by the way. There are a lot of people who say Jesus had to be born in the spring because that's when the lambs are born. Actually, there are birthings in the fall as well, and temple shepherds would be receiving these baby lambs, inspecting them, and wiping them down in order to make the inspection. And the things that they wiped them with were called swaddling clothes. That is, swaddling clothes were old garments ripped apart that could no longer be used in priestly services, that were torn up into strips and used to wipe down the baby lambs for inspection, and then they were sent to another place, and then finally sent to Jerusalem for sacrifice. And I think it makes a great deal of sense. And next week we're going to look at the Christmas story in the traditional way. It makes a great deal of sense that when Jesus was born at Migdal Eder, next to the shepherd's field for the temple, that he was wiped down with the same swaddling clothes that were used to wipe down the temple sheep.